In the near future, Earth's environment is completely wrecked. Temperatures are just constantly rising, and problems are popping up everywhere. Even the melting Arctic ice released ancient bacteria that pushed ocean fish to the brink of extinction. Most countries globally are falling apart, and right in the middle of all this, a dictator named Vasu has completely taken over Thailand. Vasu's wife is battling a weird illness where she constantly needs blood transfusions to stay alive. One day, Vasu somehow finds out that fresh ocean fish can cure his wife's illness. So what do you think happened next? He decided he absolutely had to get that fish, no matter what. Vasu used his powerful connections to start an illegal deep-sea fish trafficking operation. Nowadays, fish are such a luxury that people from lower classes would literally die for a fish head. Serving fish dishes to Vasu's wife became a huge burden for him, so he ordered his deputy to use this as an excuse to set up a sushi market in the country. When the first batch of fish arrived, Vasu's deputy invited famous rich people and served them the dish. But the very next moment, his body started shaking badly, and black blood started flowing from his mouth. He was immediately rushed to the hospital, but before surgery, his body stopped responding. Scans showed strange things filling his veins. As soon as the doctor confirmed his death, his body suddenly started moving. Dr. Erling, who was just discussing this unusual case with the director, saw two nurses running around like crazy. Right behind Dr. Erling was that dead deputy who was now alive. Nobody thought that the nurse he bit would turn into a bloodthirsty zombie in just a few minutes. That nurse went nuts, attacking her own colleagues. The whole hospital was thrown into chaos in an instant. Dr. Erling managed to hide in a storeroom. A wounded patient was sitting near her. Erling slowly went to the door to see if there was any way to escape, but when she turned around, that patient was gone. Panic and fear filled Erling's mind. She looked around, then she saw that same patient had turned into a zombie. There was a short distance between them, just a few racks. Erling took advantage of the moment and ran out of there. In the middle of all this, she heard a sound from somewhere. She paused for a bit. She listened carefully and then realized the sound was coming from a broadcasting device. The surprising thing was, it was her boyfriend's voice, who had come to the hospital to save her. Now, a little background on Erling's boyfriend. Singer used to be a famous boxer, but when things got tough, he started smuggling. Actually, this was the same Singer who, along with his crew, smuggled those deep-sea fish into the country, which is what started this whole mess. Singer was at home that day, waiting for his girlfriend to come back from work. Suddenly, an emergency news report came on the radio saying that the hospital where his girlfriend worked had been completely sealed off. Singer immediately felt something was wrong and rushed there, but the army had already surrounded the entire area around the hospital. No one was allowed to go inside. The common people gathered outside the hospital had no idea what was really going on. They started shouting and asking questions. Just then, a nurse fell from an upper floor. As soon as the soldiers ran to save her, the nurse pounced on them like a maniac. Although the nurse was immediately shot and killed, she had already bitten one soldier. Singer thought he could somehow sneak into the hospital in all this chaos, but then the soldiers started pushing people back, guiding everyone towards the hospital lobby. A security guard was honestly trying to control the crowd there. Suddenly, some people jumped down from above, running like crazy. The crowd was still trying to figure out what was happening when a zombie roared, leaped into the air, and attacked the people. In no time, the ground floor lobby was completely destroyed. The zombie virus started spreading rapidly throughout the hospital. Every floor was just filled with screams and painful shouts. Singer immediately ran towards the broadcast room. Even though he couldn't contact his girlfriend Erling, he at least let her know he was there. Using his excellent fighting skills, Singer took down several zombies in just a few seconds. In this chaos, he spotted a small boy who was trembling with fear. Zombies were gathering all around him. Singer quickly ran and killed several zombies surrounding the boy. His real intention was just to save the child. But then he found out this kid knew his girlfriend, Erling. The boy's mother was Erling's colleague. So Singer got hopeful that if he found the boy's mother, he might also find Erling. Singer figured this approach was much better than just wandering around. Now he had a guide to show him the way, which sped him up. Yeah, if it ever got too noisy, a big horde of zombies would show up and they'd both hide in a room. Singer saw with his own eyes how some people, in despair, even took their own lives. But his determination and faith in saving his girlfriend were still strong. He had made up his mind. No matter what, he had to get Erling out of that hospital alive. But Singer had no idea that the entire hospital had been sealed off by the army. Now, if anyone tried to get out of the hospital, whether infected or not, the army would shoot them. Because by now, the army understood the dangerous potential of this virus. And they decided that the entire hospital would be blown up in 30 minutes to stop the spread of the virus. Meanwhile, Dr. Erling was hidden hidden in the nursing room with some other survivors. She felt like they couldn't stay hidden for much longer, especially since her mind kept going back to her boyfriend's safety. Finally, she gathered her courage and decided she had to get out of that room. Erling decided she'd go to the security room and check the CCTV footage. She cleverly snatched a key from a zombie and quickly opened the security room door. But as soon as the door opened, Erling's heart sank. Every corridor, every turn was packed with zombies. How would she find her boyfriend in these conditions? Erling quickly started switching cameras, and then, on the ICU camera, she saw someone she totally didn't expect. Without wasting any time, she ran. The person opening the door was none other than Warlord Vasu. This was the room where Vasu's sick wife was kept, an isolated room that was always secure. Erling realized that if there was any safe place in the hospital right now, it was here. Erling asked Vasu, "What do we do now? Are we just going to stay hidden here forever?" Vasu looked at his watch and said confidently, "We don't need to do anything. When the time comes, people will come to save us." And sure enough, Vasu was right. As soon as the army found out Vasu was trapped in the hospital, they immediately called in their most special task force. The order was, even if the entire team had to be sacrificed, Vasu and his wife had to be brought out. In a little while, a fully armed special unit quietly sneaked into the hospital. On the other side, the number of zombies in the hospital was also increasing rapidly with time. Singer was smarter now. He didn't go through the zombie-filled stairwells. Instead, he and the little boy, Shaul, climbed up to the third floor using the outside scaffolding. Once there, they quietly bypassed several zombie groups and finally found Shaul's mother in the newborn ward. They hugged and comforted each other. But there was a slight sadness on Shaul's mother's face. She pleaded with Singer, "Please take care of my son. I probably won't be able to stay with him for much longer." Singer immediately understood what she was trying to say. He also found out that his girlfriend Erling was currently in the emergency ward on the 5th floor. Without delay, he took Shaul's hand and started to lead him away because the woman had been bitten by a zombie. The little boy didn't want to leave his mother, but Singer held him firmly and started to take him away. Only then did Shaul see that his mother had completely transformed into a zombie. Singer realized that staying there any longer was like inviting death. He grabbed a torn piece of cloth and tightly tied Shaul to his back. Then, with full energy, he cut through the zombie crowd and escaped. After struggling for a long time, he finally temporarily got out of danger. Meanwhile, in the ICU room, Erling was given a new responsibility. Vasu told her that the blood bag keeping his wife alive was about to run out. Erling was a doctor. She had no right to refuse. Although she knew the corridors were overrun with zombies, she wasn't going to back down. She slowly opened the door and cautiously stepped out of the ICU. Almost every few meters, she would encounter zombies, but slowly she started to understand their movement patterns. Each time, she somehow managed to escape just in time. Zombies were gathered all around the room. She was completely surrounded now. There was no way out. On the other side, Singer found his girlfriend Necklace and saw her running from zombie. Singer's blood boiled. He roared loudly and ran like crazy towards the zombie horde. In another corridor far away, the Special Forces team, using their advanced weapons, broke through the zombie blockades and reached the ICU. They surrounded Vasu and his wife and safely started taking them to the upper floor where they were to be evacuated by helicopter. But in the middle of this, a soldier messed up and got infected after being bitten by a zombie. Vasu suddenly remembered that his wife needed a doctor's care all the time. Meanwhile, Singer had also finally carved out a path through the zombie crowd. He saw Erling through the glass. As their eyes met, a glimmer of hope rekindled in their hearts. But this emotional moment didn't last long because a zombie lunged at Erling. But just then, Shaul pulled out a fire extinguisher from behind and sprayed it. Erling got a little relief, and Singer didn't waste the chance. He quickly entered the room and ripped that zombie to pieces. Finally, these sorrowful lovers were reunited once again. But they had neither the time nor the space for each other. They first had to get out of the hospital. But as soon as Singer crossed the door, a bullet hit his body. He fell to the ground. Turns out the soldiers who came to get Erling had shot him, mistaking him for an infected person. And by the time they realized their mistake, they were more focused on completing the mission than feeling ashamed. Lying on the ground, Singer saw all this, and his anger exploded. Despite being in pain from the wound, he got up and lunged at the soldiers with all his might. Now for him, there were no soldiers left, no zombies. Anyone who stood in front of his girlfriend was his enemy. But nobody expected the team leader to also be an incredible fighter. They clashed fiercely, and in the end, both fell down, unconscious and badly wounded. But sadly, all of the team leader's comrades became victims of the zombies. Singer, however, was a little luckier because he had a doctor girlfriend. Erling immediately treated his wounds, and he regained consciousness shortly after. They had no idea that the military was planning to blow up the hospital building. Their only goal was to get out of there, no matter what. But on the way, Shaul noticed something strange. The wounded team leader had turned into a zombie. Singer had already planned what to do. He lured him into a room. Then he picked up some bottles of alcohol from there, lit a match. The flames spread rapidly, but there was no fear in Singer's eyes. He knew that the hospital had the most advanced fire safety system. In a little while, heavy water started pouring from the ceiling, and the fire was put out. But no one could have imagined that as soon as the water fell, those infected people mutated for the second time. Now their bones were even more flexible, their teeth sharper, and just like vultures. As Singer and his team turned the corner, Vasu stood in front of them. Water had also fallen on his wife, and she too had transformed into a monstrous form. Erling guessed that all this might have happened because of the dried fish they had given. But Vasu just stood there silently. He didn't resist, instead he let his wife bite him. Meanwhile, the other mutated zombies also sped towards them. In no time, Vasu's body became their meal, and now Singer and the others were also surrounded by zombies. These new breed of zombies were so fast that escaping them was almost impossible. Singer immediately made a decision. He would stay behind. He told Erling to take Shaul and run upwards. Singer kept distracting the zombies from behind and got trapped in a car while fighting. Meanwhile, Erling somehow reached the roof, and coincidentally, a military helicopter was already there. When they found out Vasu was dead, they only took Erling and the child. After Erling's repeated requests, the pilot finally agreed. Okay, we'll give Singer 5 more minutes. But at that moment, Singer was already at death's door. Thousands of zombies had completely surrounded his car. Suddenly, a sound came from within the horde. It was the safety pin of a grenade. And then, boom, there was a massive explosion. There were just pieces of flying flesh everywhere. Singer was already prepared, so he somehow survived. But this explosion seemed to invite more trouble, and even more zombies now ran towards him. Singer gathered his last bit of courage. He put all his strength into it and somehow reached the roof. But the pursuing crowd was too big. Now he had to stay behind and stop them. Erling, sitting in the helicopter with tears in her eyes, kept screaming. As the helicopter flew further into the sky, Singer looked back one last time. Then a calm, satisfied smile spread across his face. She's safe, he told himself. What else do I need? But then the timer the military had set also reached its end. Crash! The entire hospital was engulfed in a sea of fire. In the smoke and ashes, Singer and countless zombies met their end together. If you like the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.